different worlds of people. You come with a different set of experiences, and those experiences can influence you in a positive way, or you can just sit home and say, oh, well, I'm middle class, and you know, as they said in Liberia, when I was at Northwest, I ran into somebody from Liberia, and my husband and I went to Liberia, and they would say, I've got my rice, man. I said, what does that mean? Like, I fed my family, and I've got my rice. And so sometimes I think that middle-class African Americans have this, I've got my rice mentality. I've got my rice, and so I don't need to help anybody else.
Do you think the civil rights movement helped to get people out of poverty?
Oh, yeah, I do think that. The whole idea of signs, and there's so many kids. I went back for a reunion, and I was talking to a young man that I knew who was one of the smartest kids in my school. We were all black school, and he said, and I don't like to use this my real name, Lillie Mae. He said, Lillie Mae, do you know that only 100 of us, of the 100 kids, only 10 of us went to college? I thought, no, I didn't, but I knew there were few. And he said, do you know of those 10, only 4 of us graduated from college? And I said, no, I didn't. And he said, and of the 4 of us, only 1 of us got a master's degree, and that would be you. And I think about those other 90 kids who didn't have a Mr. Scott, who were as bright or brighter than I was. And when I went back and I saw how poverty had taken a toll on some of them, and girls that were, in my mind, going to school were the most beautiful girls in the world. But I saw people who had lost their teeth because they didn't have dental coverage, because, you know, you didn't go to the dentist. I mean, you went to the dentist when the tooth was coming out because you couldn't afford to go to a dentist, and plus you had to go, you went in the back of hospitals. You were never allowed in the front door of anything. You went through the back door for everything, the back of the hospital, and you never went to a dentist. I often saw people in the South with their, when the jaw was swollen, it was like, it's time, well, I guess I'm going to have to take you to the dentist. But you know, getting your teeth clean, no, that was just not something. Braces, my kids had braces. And I think back to kids who have overjets, and you know, my background in speech pathology, I learned a great deal about the facial structure and how that affects your speech, and overbites and all those kind of things. And it's a factor of mouth breathing and not having access to an orthodontist. And my girls went to orthodontists. I had never heard the word orthodontist because I never went to a dentist either. So there were just so many things that you took for granted, that now I take for granted, that had I not had an opportunity, I cannot imagine what would have happened to me. You know, I just think about that one opportunity where this man just chased me up and down the hall. And so I'd love to say that I went back and said, thank you, Mr. Scott. But that was just what black people did. If they found somebody they thought could get out, and I hate to use the term, get out, they would just mentor you, and they would not let you go. Like, you're going to be the one. You're going to be the one to get out. And how the way it affected me was that I found myself as a principal. When I became a principal, and when I was, first I came in as a supervisor of Title I. Walked into Prince William County in 1971, became supervisor of Title I. Did not interview for the job. Decided that I was going to reluctantly become a public school therapist because there was no other place for me to work. And they interviewed me and said, oh, we like your background. We'd like for you to take this other job. And I became a diagnostic prescriptive teacher because at Northwestern, you know, the background in speech, you get a lot of background in physiology, anatomy, neurology, and I knew how to write reports that nobody understood. So because of that, they decided that they were going to give me this job, a diagnostic prescriptive teacher or something it was called. And then all of a sudden, Herb Saunders heard about me, and they said, well, I became, this one school in Jeanette Brown at Bel Air, and she said, I want you to be my assistant principal at Minnieville. She was opening all these new schools. And I said, oh, me? I had never thought of it. And again, somebody come into your life and they see something in you you don't see in yourself. And I said, oh, me? And so then she said, Herb Saunders said, no, he was in charge at that point. You have been, there's a 3-year rule. But then he met me, I guess, and decided he liked me. And so all of a sudden I was supervisor of Title I. In 1971, Fannie Fitzgerald had been the supervisor, the first African-American supervisor at central office, and had left. And he met me and decided pretty much I replaced her, because there were only 2 of us at central office at that time. So I kind of replaced Fannie at central office. And because of what happened to me, I always looked at my staff as, I guess I was sort of Mr. Scott. A lot of people that worked for me became principals. Vaughn, there are just numerous people who came out of that school. And because I really never quite said thank you to him. And so when I'm sitting down to do evaluations of teachers, the question would be, I remember in teacher aid, and I said, you know, I would start they said, she's going to ask you this question, and the question is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And initially we'd throw the person off, and they said, well, what do you mean? Like, what are your goals? What do you think? And I had people say, oh, I could never be a principal. And I would say, oh yeah, I remember tricking one person, and she knows who she is. I tricked her into an interview because I thought this girl is sharp. She didn't think she could be my administrative assistant, but I felt she could. But it was like paying back Mr. Scott. When my dad died, I went back to Newberry, and I had heard that Mr. Scott had been killed in a boating accident. And I went to his wife's house, and I said, you know, I feel badly because I did say thank you to him, but I don't know. I don't know if God just keeps your common sense from you until you're older or not. And you think, did I really say thank you to this man? So I went to her and I said, I want to say thank you to let you know that I appreciate what he did for me. And she said, and at first it set me back, but she said, I don't remember you. They were both teachers in this all-black school. And she said, and then she said something that I thought, wow. She said, Scotty helped so many people that I didn't know about. And when he died, there was this line of people who lined up and said, you know, he helped me get a scholarship, and he helped me get, and I thought, wow, what a goal to have in your life, to have helped so many people that you don't know, you don't remember those people, that he had helped these people. He never boasted about it, and she didn't know until he died.
Well, I think you've been sort of a Mr. Scott in Prince William County, because you started a couple of programs, your VTech program and your MLK contest program. Could you tell us a little bit about the VTech program and then the MLK?
My daughter attended Virginia Tech. You know, Virginia Tech is like one of those good cults. People who go to Virginia Tech become obsessed, and my daughter's obsessed with it, loved it. And so because of her, she was on the board down there, was selected as the student representative on the board of directors. And because of her influence, I was able to get on the School of Education board. And so I was on that board. And there was a day in that school at their university where if you're on the board, you get a chance to go up in these nice seats and watch the game. And I noticed this culture of belonging to Virginia Tech and how it was so invasive and a part of who they were. And I was sitting and looking out on the field one day and saw the orange and the burgundy, and looking at I started to realize that there were 3 generations there. There were the generations of the students, the 20-year-olds, whatever. Then there were the people who would just love Virginia Tech, the older people who they're generous, and they love Virginia Tech, and they came back and they had all their little things going on at the football game. And then I started to notice another group, and that was the little ones, the babies, with Virginia Tech stuff on, and with the t-shirts. And Virginia Tech is diverse, but it's primarily white. And it dawned on me that these kids grow up knowing they're going to college. There's never a question about whether or not the question is, are you going to get into tech? But you're going to go to college. And I thought, my kids at Vaughn are not growing up like that. They're growing up like I did, like with not goals. I'm not going to do what my parents did, and maybe I'll graduate from high school, and so I thought, why not plant that goal in the heads of my children? So I talked to the director of the School of Education, Dr. Magliara, and I said, you think my 5th graders could come to Virginia Tech? Before talking to her,